They said the bridge would hold until sunrise, but the river had already made its decision. "Stop! Don't take one more step!" The woman's voice cut through the wind like a blade. The black SUV had tilted so far to one side that one tire no longer touched the broken wooden bridge. Rain hammered the roof. Water rushed beneath like something alive and angry. Inside the car, a man gripped the steering wheel, jaw clenched, refusing to move. "Open the door, now!" she shouted again, running into the storm with a lantern held above her head. "If this bridge collapses, the river will drag you with it!" The man rolled down the window halfway and looked at her in disbelief. "Who are you? Why are you out here in this weather?" "I am the only reason you are still alive. Open the door!" Another crack echoed beneath the car. This time, he moved. The door pushed open with difficulty, and the wind nearly ripped it from his hand. The woman reached him, grabbed his wrist, and pulled hard. He stumbled onto the wet boards just as part of the bridge gave way behind him. "Step where I step," she said. "Not left, not right. If you fall, I am not jumping in after you." Even in danger, there was something sharp and fearless in her voice. They crossed together. By the time they reached the muddy roadside, both of them were soaked to the bone. The man turned back and watched helplessly as the front of his SUV slid deeper toward the broken section. "My car." "Your life is worth more than your car," she said. "Unless rich men have started buying new souls in the city." He looked at her properly then. She was young, African, beautiful without trying to be, with rain on her eyelashes and stubbornness in every line of her face. She held the lantern high, studying him too. Her eyes paused at the ring on his finger, half hidden as if he had tried to turn it inward. "You hide that ring like it carries trouble," she said quietly. "Who are you really?" He hesitated. Then he gave the kind of smile people use when they need time to think. "A man who owes you his life." She was not impressed. "That answer sounds rehearsed. And your questions sound dangerous." "They should. It is dangerous when strange men appear on broken bridges in the middle of storms." A burst of thunder rolled above them. "My home is nearby," she said at last. "You can wait until morning, but if you bring trouble, turn back now and let the river finish the conversation." He almost laughed despite himself. "Do you threaten every man you rescue?" "Only the stubborn ones." She turned and began walking. After a moment, he followed. Her name was Amara. He learned it when they reached the small house at the edge of the village, where the lights flickered and the smell of ginger tea filled the room. Her mother was asleep in the next room. Their catering supplies were stacked neatly against one wall. Everything in the house was modest, but everything had been cared for. Amara handed him a dry cloth. "Sit. Your pride has already suffered enough tonight." "You speak to strangers with a lot of confidence." "You came into my village half-drowned wearing a watch that could feed 3 families. Confidence is the least of what this situation requires." He smiled again, more honestly this time. "Do you always judge people this quickly?" "No. Sometimes I wait 2 full minutes." He laughed softly. For the first time that night, he seemed less like a mystery and more like a man. She cleaned the cut on his hand where the broken car door had scraped him. He watched her work with careful fingers and a steadiness that did not match her age. "You do this often?" he asked. "Patch up foolish men who ignore warnings?" "More than I should." "I meant the way you work." "My mother and I run a small events kitchen," she said. "Weddings, naming ceremonies, business launches when rich people remember villages exist. We do not have much, but we are building something." There was pride in her voice then, quiet but solid. He noticed it. He noticed everything. When she finished wrapping his hand, she removed a thin bracelet from her own wrist. Blue beads with a small gold center charm shaped like a rising sun. "This will keep the cloth tight until morning," she said. He looked at it. "That seems too personal to give a stranger." "Then return it," she said, "before the next rain. I do not give away my work permanently." "You made this?" "Yes." "It is beautiful." "So is a promise, until it is broken." He held her gaze. "Then I will return it before the next rain." Something shifted in the room, quiet and dangerous. Not love, not yet, but the memory of it, maybe, or the possibility. Then his phone lit up. Dozens of missed calls, one message after another. "Urgent. Return immediately. The council has announced it. Your father is down. The palace expects you before dawn." His expression changed so suddenly that even Amara noticed. "What happened?" He stood too quickly. "I have to leave." "In this storm?" "I do not have a choice." "Who are you?" she asked again, this time more softly. He looked at the bracelet on his wrist, then at her. "Someone who should have met you on a better night." That was all he gave her. By sunrise, he was gone. And when Amara finally saw his face on every screen in town the next afternoon, standing beneath royal banners beside a woman in jewels, her blood went cold. Crown Prince Khamari Adebayo, heir to the throne, returns to palace after overnight disappearance. Royal engagement to Lady Surwa confirmed ahead of unity ceremony. Amara stared so long that the letters blurred. Her friend Nia snatched the phone and gasped. "Amara, that is him, isn't it?" Amara said nothing. She only looked at the bracelet missing from her wrist, then at the identical one still visible on his. "He promised to return," Nia said. Amara's voice was calm in a way that frightened even herself. Men with crowns do not break promises loudly. They let the whole world explain their silence for them. Inside the palace, Khamari was already fighting a war of a different kind. "You had no right," he said coldly, standing before the royal council while the Queen Regent watched him from the raised seat. "You announced my engagement while I was gone." "The kingdom cannot breathe on uncertainty," said Chief Advisor Mbele. "News of your father's collapse was already circling. Stability had to be shown." "Stability?" Khamari snapped. "By deciding my future without me?" Lady Surwa stood nearby in silver silk, beautiful, composed, and unreadable. "This alliance has been discussed for months." "Discussed is not chosen." Her eyes hardened slightly, though her smile remained elegant. "You disappeared on the one night your family needed you here." Khamari ignored that. "What treaty requires marriage?" Silence. Then the advisor slid a thick folder toward him. "Our northern trade and medicine corridor depends on Surwa's house. Thousands of jobs, supply lines, agricultural movement, and regional peace. The people cannot afford your hesitation." Khamari did not even open the file, because somewhere in his mind, in a small house far from the palace, a woman with fearless eyes had said, "So is a promise, until it is broken." He looked down at the bracelet still on his wrist. The Queen noticed. "So," she said quietly, "someone important gave you that." "Someone honest," he replied. That answer changed everything. Back in the village, problems arrived faster than explanations. Amara and her mother lost their refrigeration unit after a power surge. An important catering contract was now at risk. Repair costs were impossible. Suppliers wanted money. Customers wanted guarantees. And every time Amara tried to focus on work, someone nearby mentioned the palace engagement. "Maybe forget him," her mother said gently. "Some men arrive only to test whether our daughters know how to survive disappointment." Amara sealed another crate and forced herself to breathe. "I am not crying over a prince. I am saving this business." Then, opportunity appeared, wearing a palace badge. A recruitment officer came to the market square seeking temporary hospitality staff for the royal engagement month. High pay, immediate accommodation, 1 month inside the palace. Amara read the paper twice. Her mother frowned. "No. It pays enough to fix the fridge. It also takes you into the lion's mouth. I have served worse people at private events. Not worse dressed." Amara almost smiled. "I will work. I will earn. I will come back. That is all." But even she did not believe it was all. When Amara entered the palace 2 days later, the world seemed built to remind ordinary people of their distance. Gold doors, marble floors, guards who looked through staff as if poverty were transparent. Imported flowers, crystal lights, controlled smiles. She straightened her temporary staff badge and swallowed every emotion before it could show on her face. This was work, nothing more. Then she heard his voice before she saw him. "Change the arrangement at the east table. It blocks the sight line from the entrance." Her hands froze around the tray she was carrying. No storm, no darkness, no mystery now. Just the same voice attached to a man in royal black, standing beneath chandeliers as if he had been born from the walls themselves. Prince Khamari turned. He saw her. And for one suspended second, the whole palace disappeared. Amara? A glass slipped from a nearby tray and shattered. The staff supervisor spun around. "Who dropped that?" Amara found her voice first. "I did not, madam." But her heartbeat was so loud she was sure everybody heard it. Lady Serwa approached from the far end of the hall, just in time to see Khamari staring at a temporary worker like the room had caught fire. "Your Highness," Serwa said smoothly. "The council is waiting." His gaze did not move from Amara. "I need a moment." Serwa followed his line of sight, saw the girl, saw the bracelet in Amara's hand where she had unconsciously touched her own wrist. And in that instant, Serwa understood too much. Later that night, Khamari found Amara near the service corridor. "I wrote to you," he said immediately. She almost laughed at the audacity of that opening. "How fortunate! I received silence instead." "I did write." "And I watched my village celebrate your engagement on every screen." My father collapsed. I was taken back before sunrise. They made decisions before I could— "You could what?" she cut in. "Tell the truth? Return one bracelet? Remember one promise?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I never forgot you. Do not insult me with palace versions of honesty. Amara. No, you do not get to say my name like we are still standing in the rain before I knew who you were." Something in him broke at that. "I came to explain. You came too late." He reached for the bracelet on his wrist. "Then let me return this now." She stepped back. "No, keep it. Let it remind you what your titles cost other people." She walked away before he could answer. But Serwa had already seen enough to know that Amara was not a passing distraction. She was a threat. The next morning, Serwa summoned Amara privately under the excuse of reviewing staff assignments. "You work carefully," Serwa said, seated elegantly in a sunlit chamber lined with carved wood screens. "Most temporary workers come here to stare at luxury and lose their minds." "I came to earn money, not memories, Your Highness." Serwa smiled at that. "Direct. I appreciate direct women. They are easier to understand." Amara remained standing. Serwa picked up a document from her table. "Your family business is in trouble. Equipment repairs, cancelled orders, delayed supplier payments. I dislike how easy it is for poverty to become public knowledge." Amara's expression did not change, though her stomach tightened. "Those records were provided for employment." "Everything in a palace becomes useful." She slid an envelope across the table. Amara did not touch it. "What is that?" "A solution. Enough money to repair your business, replace damaged stock, and give your mother a comfortable year. In exchange, you will finish your contract quietly and never seek private contact with Prince Khamari again." Amara looked at her for a long moment. Then she asked, "Do you offer this because you think I am poor enough to take it? Or because you are afraid enough to need me gone?" Serwa's smile faded for the first time. "You speak boldly for someone standing on temporary ground. And you bargain cheaply for someone raised around power." Serwa leaned back. "You think this is romance? It is governance. Kingdoms are not run on the emotions of stormy nights." Amara finally touched the envelope, only to push it back. "My mother raised me to earn, not to disappear for payment. Keep your money." Serwa watched her leave, and something darker settled in her eyes. That evening, the palace prepared for the public unity banquet. Every table was polished, every torch was lit, every camera angle was planned. Amara kept her head down and worked faster than anyone on her team. She told herself she was stronger now. Then she heard the announcer rehearse the royal introduction. "Tonight, before allied houses and national witnesses, Crown Prince Khamari Adebayo stands beside Lady Serwa Mensah in honorable promise." Amara's hands stopped moving. Just for a second. But it was long enough. Long enough for Serwa, watching from the balcony above, to know pain was still alive. And pain, in palaces, is useful when weaponized. Not an hour later, chaos erupted. "My brooch is missing," Serwa announced sharply as attendants gathered around. "The emerald sunburst brooch from my ceremonial gown." A senior official stepped forward. "Seal the exits." The staff froze. "Search every preparation room," Serwa said. "Nobody leaves until it is found." Amara felt a strange chill run through her. Not fear. Recognition. Because Serwa was not searching like a woman who had lost something. She was watching like a woman who already knew where it was. The staff quarters were searched first, then personal bags, then locked boxes. When the official opened Amara's travel bag and lifted the brooch from beside a folded scarf, the room went silent. Several people gasped. The official's voice became formal. "Temporary staff member Amara Okoye. This item was found among your belongings." Amara stared at it in disbelief. "That is impossible." "Is it?" Serwa asked softly from the doorway. Amara's head snapped up. "I have never touched that brooch. It was in your bag. Then someone put it there." The official turned to the witnesses. "Record her statement." "My statement?" Amara said, fury finally breaking through. "Record this too.
Someone entered my room, opened my bag, and chose me because they expected nobody would defend a village worker against a royal bride."
Gasps spread even wider this time.
"You should be careful," Serwa said coolly. "False accusations against the palace carry consequences, and true ones scare it even more."
Just then, another voice cut through the room. "She did not steal anything, Khamari." He stepped inside, eyes moving from the brooch to Amara to Serwa with terrifying clarity. The official straightened. "Your Highness, this is now a formal matter." "Then handle it formally," Khamari said, "with evidence, not convenience." "The brooch was in her bag." "That proves location, not guilt." Serwa crossed her arms.
"You defend her quickly." "Because I know her."
The official hesitated. "In what capacity, Your Highness?" Khamari lifted his wrist, revealing the blue and gold bracelet. "She made this on the night she saved my life." The room exploded in whispers. Serwa's face changed by only half a degree, but it was enough. Amara felt humiliation burn through her chest, not because the truth was known, but because it had taken a public accusation to force it out. "I do not need rescue now," she said bitterly. "Not from you." Khamari turned to her. "Amara, no. Where was this courage when silence was cheaper?" The official cleared his throat. "Until further review, her palace duties are suspended. No final judgment yet. The item remains evidence." Amara looked at every face in the room. Some curious, some sympathetic, some already convinced. She understood then how reputations are destroyed in powerful places, not by proof, but by delay. She removed her staff badge, placed it on the table, and said, "I came here to work honestly. If the palace wants theater, it can perform without me." Then she walked out. By dawn, the rumor had reached her village before she did. Some customers paused orders. One event coordinator asked for time to see how the palace matter settles. Her mother tried to stay calm, but the fear in her eyes was impossible to hide. "They even withheld the remainder of my wages," Amara said, sitting at the kitchen table with exhaustion in her bones. "I went there to save this business, and I brought home shame instead." Her mother took her hand. "You did not bring shame. Someone threw it, and you refused to wear it." But survival does not run on wise sayings alone. Suppliers still needed payment. Repairs still cost money. Their future was still cracking. Inside the palace, Khamari had stopped pretending patience. "Bring me every file connected to the Serwa Treaty," he ordered the archives clerk. "Original versions, amendments, side agreements, council notes, everything." The old clerk swallowed. "Those records are sensitive." "So is betrayal. Move." As the files arrived, one truth became impossible to ignore. The written agreement secured trade routes, medical corridors, and customs protections between the two houses. It said nothing about marriage. Khamari read it twice, then a third time. When he looked up, his face had gone cold enough to frighten even the archivist. "They used expectation," he said quietly. "Not law." "Your Highness," said Chief Advisor Mbele from the doorway, having arrived without invitation. "Royal continuity has always relied on understandings beyond paper." "Then call it what it is. Pressure dressed as tradition." "The kingdom cannot afford your rebellion." "The kingdom cannot afford lies wearing its crest." He demanded the dispatch logs next. What he found there turned anger into something sharper. 3 letters addressed to Amara. all written by him in the days after he returned, all held back under royal instruction, not misplaced, not delayed, hidden. Then a junior staff supervisor came forward with trembling hands. "Your Highness, I need to report something." "What?" "The access record to the women's staff corridor. Lady Serwa entered Amara's room shortly before the brooch report. I noticed it earlier, but I did not understand its importance." Khamari stared at her. "Do you understand it now?" "Yes, Your Highness." "Good. You will repeat that before witnesses." That night, the Unity Banquet Hall glittered brighter than ever, as if luxury itself were trying to bury truth under light. Guests gathered. Cameras waited. Nobles smiled carefully. Serwa stood at the front in full ceremonial dress, though her confidence was more disciplined now than effortless. The Queen Regent rose. "Let the formal declaration begin." Khamari stepped forward. But instead of taking his place beside Serwa, he turned to the assembly. "Before any crown is touched," he said, voice carrying across the hall, "this palace will answer for what it buried." Every sound in the room died instantly. The Queen's expression hardened. "Khamari!" He did not stop. An innocent woman was framed inside these walls. Letters were hidden. A treaty was misrepresented. And the name of the kingdom was used to force obedience, where truth had not been given the right to speak. Whispers began rippling outward like shock through water. Chief Advisor Mbele stood. "This is neither the place nor the time. This is exactly the place," Khamari said. "Because the lie was built here." He held up the treaty. "Read it. Every witness, every camera. Read where it says marriage is required." No one moved. Because no one could. "It does not," he said. "Not once." The Queen Regent descended one step from the platform. "Even if that is so, political duty remains." Political duty did not place Serwa's brooch in Amara's travel bag. Now the room truly broke open. Serwa went still. Khamari turned toward her, not with cruelty, but with a terrible steadiness. "The access record shows you entered her room before the accusation. Do you deny it?" Serwa said nothing. "A member of staff witnessed your movements. The log was signed. The letters to Amara were hidden under palace order. How much more should others suffer for a future they did not choose?" Serwa's breathing changed first. Then, finally, she spoke. "I entered her room," she said. The hall held its breath. "I wanted to see the girl who could pull a prince's mind away from his throne." Her voice was calm, but the strain beneath it was unmistakable. "And when I understood that she mattered, I became afraid." The Queen whispered, "Serwa." Serwa's eyes shone, though no tears fell. "I was raised to believe this future was mine, that this marriage would secure houses, honor, history. Everyone spoke as though it had already happened. Then suddenly there was a girl from nowhere standing inside the palace, with his eyes following her like the rest of us no longer existed." She turned toward Khamari then. "So yes, I placed the brooch in her bag. I told myself it was temporary, that removing her would restore order. But fear always calls itself necessity before it shows its real face. Silence. Not relieved silence. The kind that arrives after something irreparable admits its own name." The Queen Regent closed her eyes once, briefly, then opened them as ruler rather than mother.
This ceremony is suspended immediately, she declared. An inquiry will begin tonight into all concealed correspondence, false accusations, and manipulations of royal process. Chief Advisor Mbele tried to speak, but she silenced him with one glance. Khamari should have felt victory. Instead, all he could think was this. Amara heard none of it. She was at home, packing. Not dramatically, not angrily, just practically. When Nia entered her room and saw the suitcase open, she frowned. "You are really leaving?" "For the coast," Amara said. "A catering partner there still remembers our work, not our rumors. My mother and I can start again." "And if Khamari comes?" Amara folded a dress with careful hands. "Then he will arrive at a closed door and learn that apologies are not magic." A knock sounded at the front gate. Both women froze. Nia moved first, peeking through the curtain. Then she turned slowly. He came alone. No guards, no convoy, no royal car line. Just Khamari, standing in plain clothes beneath the evening sky with a file in one hand and a small wrapped box in the other. Amara stepped outside. He did not move closer without permission. That mattered. "You came without the palace," she said. "I came without excuses." She folded her arms. "Those are not the same thing." "I know." He held out the file first. "Your name has been cleared publicly. Your wages were released this morning. The formal statement is signed. Serwa confessed. The letters I wrote were hidden. The treaty never required marriage." Amara took the file, but did not open it yet. "That clears facts," she said. "Not damage." "I know."
He placed the small wrapped box on the bench beside the door. Inside was her bracelet. Beside it were the documents confirming full payment for her withheld wages, restitution for lost income caused by the false accusation, and industrial repair coverage for her family's refrigeration unit. She looked at the papers, then at him. "I do not want palace charity." "It is not charity. It is owed." "By the palace?" "Yes." "And by you?" He did not rush the answer. "By me, more than these papers can settle." For the first time, some of the anger in her eyes made room for pain. "That night in the corridor," she said quietly, "I needed you to speak before the room turned against me." "I know." "And before that, I needed your silence to end before the world announced your life beside another woman." His voice lowered further. "I know." She laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "You know many things now." "Too late." "Yes." He accepted that without defense. The evening stretched between them. Then he said, "I once thought returning would be enough. But absence explained by duty is still absence. Silence under pressure is still silence. And if love cannot speak when the other person stands alone, then it is not ready to call itself love." Amara looked at him for a long time. That answer did not repair the wound, but it touched it honestly. Inside the house, her mother remained near the doorway, listening without interfering. Khamari continued, "I am not here to ask for forgiveness tonight. I am here to stand in the truth I failed to stand in before." Amara finally opened the file and scanned the top pages. The palace seal, the public retraction, the financial restitution, the inquiry order. All real, all late. She closed it again.
"If I ever speak to you beyond tonight," she said, "it will not be inside secrets, not in hidden corridors, not in stolen moments while others arrange my life like furniture."
He nodded immediately. "Then never in secret again."
"I will not become a woman reduced to your emotional courage on good days and your silence on difficult ones."
"You will not."
"You are still a prince."
"Yes."
"And I am still the woman who would have been destroyed if truth had arrived one day later."
His face tightened. "That is the shame I will carry." She exhaled slowly.
"You may walk with me tomorrow," she said at last. "In daylight, through the market, where people can see you choose your own steps."
Hope flashed across his face, but he kept it respectful. "Only if you still want that tomorrow."
"That is the point," she said. "You ask now."
The next weeks did not become a fairy tale. They became work. Which is better? Khamari came to the village openly, sometimes carrying supply lists, sometimes helping unload crates badly enough to amuse everyone watching. Amara did not make things easy for him. If he came late, she noticed. If he promised something, she remembered. If he spoke like a prince instead of a man, she corrected him. Slowly, trust began not as romance, but as evidence. The new refrigeration system was installed. Their business recovered. Customers returned when they saw quality had survived scandal. The palace compensation helped, but Amara insisted every official statement emphasized the truth. They were not bought, they were repaired. One afternoon, Khamari stood in the storage room reading labels on stacked containers with exaggerated concentration. Amara caught him and almost smiled. "You look like the boxes insulted your education." "They did. This one says smoked pepper mix. I nearly sent it to dessert." "That would have been your final shift." He grinned. "I accept your management." "You should. I am good at it." "I noticed on a bridge in a storm." That almost made her lose her composure completely. Almost. Outside, change continued at the palace too. The Queen Regent introduced reforms to limit council overreach. Chief Advisor Mbele resigned before the inquiry could fully disgrace him. Serwa withdrew from public life for a time, her name now tied to scandal rather than ceremony. Commentators called it a constitutional embarrassment. But in homes across the country, people quietly said something else. At least one ordinary woman was not crushed and forgotten this time. Months later, when Khamari invited Amara to the palace again, she refused twice before accepting once. On her terms. No surprise gathering, no hidden political motive, no arranged speech without review. When she arrived, it was not as staff. It was as herself. Entrepreneur, business owner, the woman whose refusal to be quietly sacrificed had forced a kingdom to look at itself. The courtyard was full, but different now. Less theater, more witness. Khamari stood waiting, not on a throne, but at ground level. The Queen Regent addressed the gathering first. "Today," she said, "this palace does not present a chosen bride to its people. It acknowledges a woman who kept her name, her work, and her dignity when power failed her. Let every future ruler remember that consent is not a decoration placed on decisions made elsewhere." Amara heard the words and felt something inside her settle. Not victory, justice, perhaps, or the beginning of something close.
Khamari stepped forward and held out a small velvet tray.
On it rested a ceremonial crown band used in royal unions. He did not lift it. Instead, he said, "Before anyone celebrates around you, choose for yourself what belongs on your head, in your life, and beside your name." A murmur moved through the crowd. Amara looked at him, then at the crown band. Then she picked it up herself. The courtyard fell silent. "I am not choosing a throne over my voice," she said clearly. "And I am not choosing love that asks me to disappear so it can survive. If I walk forward today, it is because I was given truth in the open and room to refuse it." Khamari's eyes never left hers. "And if you refuse?" "Then you will live with it." "I will." She let that answer breathe. Then she stepped closer. "I choose this future freely," she said. "Not because your palace arranged it. Not because the country expects it. Not because pain disappeared. I choose it because what was broken was named, and what was hidden was dragged into light." Emotion finally broke across his face, unguarded and real. "And I choose," he said, voice rougher now, "to remain accountable long after this moment becomes memory. I once promised only to return. Now, I promise to stay honest when honesty costs me something." She gave him the smallest smile. "Good. Because I still do not reward men for learning late." Laughter spread softly through the courtyard. The tension changed, warmed. The Queen Regent nodded to the officiant. The formal words began. But when the time came for the final declaration, Amara interrupted gently and turned to the gathered witnesses. "Let it be said properly," she said. "No title, no council, no family, and no kingdom chooses this on my behalf." Then she looked at Khamari. "I do." He answered without hesitation. "And I receive that choice with more gratitude than right." The officiant smiled and continued. Before the assembled families, officials, workers, villagers, and cameras, their union was declared lawful, mutual, and freely chosen. No secret bargain, no forced alliance, no stolen voice. Just two people standing in the full cost of what it took to get there. Later, as music rose and the formalities softened into celebration, Amara leaned slightly toward him and said, "You know you still return late." Khamari smiled. "I know. And I have not forgotten the bridge. Neither have I." "Good. Because if you ever become foolish again, I may leave you in the rain next time." He laughed quietly. "That would still be kinder than I deserve." She glanced at him, then forward. "No," she said. "Kindness is what brought you to my door. Truth is what kept you there." And if you stayed with this story till the end, tell me in the comments. If you were Amara, would you forgive him quickly, or make him earn every step back? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more powerful royal African love dramas like this.